Hello everyone, my name is Fabrizio
And my name is Ian.
and we are Project Lisboeta. In this video we will talk about all the challenges we did encounter trying to move from London to Lisbon.
So one of the first issues we found was language. We'd obviously visited Lisbon quite a bit. We had actually discovered that most people do speak English, but that was not necessarily true for the smaller estate agents. We obviously were not going to a lot of the bigger estate agents. We were looking for a property whose value was at the lower end. It wasn't really the sort of investment, €500,000 plus, that the big estate agents were dealing with. And that did cause us problems. We did speak to people, we couldn't communicate, we couldn't ask about the questions that we might want to ask about the properties that were there, and in which case it was very difficult to book appointments, so we kind of gave up with some of them and moved on to others.
One more thing that we were doing, we were searching for property on search engines from the UK, and it's fair to say that they gave us few returns of our inquiries, but there was a very limited snapshot of what is the real estate market in Lisbon, and we didn't have a realistic idea about pricing, location, sizes of apartment. We basically didn't have all the options that we encountered once that we physically moved to Lisbon.
The next issue we encountered was, having shortlisted some, or at least believed that there was some of interest, availability to actually see the properties. One of these was Airbnb, all short-term rentals. That only was an issue because when we arrived, people would say, well, only if there's nobody staying in the property can you actually see it. So in fact we had 2 or 3 properties that we were lined up to see, and they cancelled last minute because they'd then had a booking from Airbnb. So there was somebody in the property. Simple as that. That got discarded. And the other one was things changing quite rapidly, actually, that we would then have somebody say, oh yes, call us back. We'd call back and, oh no, sorry, I can't show it now. Could we show it tomorrow? Could we show it in a couple of days' time? No, because we were there for 3 days. That was it.
So we realistically thought that we had a quite... we came to Lisbon to see property we arranged to see, and we believed that we had a quite dense schedule of viewings. But then at the end, when we did arrive and we were faced with the realistic option to go and see those places, were either unavailable or they were sold in the meantime, and so therefore our list from 10 reduced to 2 rather unsuitable property to see. And then location. I think one of the main challenge that we encountered, that we believed we had discrete knowledge about the city and about the location where various apartments were positioned, and we realized that we did not.
No.
So it happened to us to see apartment that during the day looked like quite typical downtown Lisbon neighborhood, and after 10 o'clock at night turned into an open air disco with hundreds of people on the street, to drinking and smoking. Nothing against drinking and smoking for sure, but it's not what you want on your doorstep, I believe, when you at 3 o'clock at night.
No, exactly.
Or not everyone.
That was one of the properties we found was in Barrio Alto, and clearly, on one of the main streets.
Barrio Alto, if you want, check it out. Wonderful place, typical downtown Lisbon neighborhood, inhabited by a lot of local people during the day, a lot of small local businesses, a lot of small grocery shop and small little restaurant and little cafe. Wonderful during the day, rather wonderful during the night, but
exactly.
Rather rowdy if you like to sometimes just chill out on your sofa and go to sleep at a decent time. So I would recommend to everyone, do research, your location, do research
Yeah.
your location and see the location where apartments are located in different times of the day. Try to see it during the day, try to see it at night, and see how this, because the two reality could be drastically different.
It's also worth mentioning that on the international market, there are probably only 5 or 6 areas that are realistically mentioned. You don't find many of the other areas really talked about. So you get the top hit lists are probably where people want to buy properties for investment, being probably things like Chiado, Lapa,
Yes.
Barialto,
Yes.
Grassa. But then, there's a lot more to Lisbon than that. And there's probably, if you are coming to live here, there's probably a lot more interesting areas to live
Yes.
than going to those.
Yes.
So that's one of the other things. It was very difficult. We never found a complete list, I don't think,
Yes.
of districts that said, this is a good one.
Yes.
It just
Also,
didn't seem to exist on the foreign, for foreign buyers like us.
yes, I would say that also as a foreign buyers, a lot of estate agents that we dealt with from abroad assumed that we were investors.
Yeah.
So they gave us options which they were suitable for potential holiday or short letting, short tenant letting, really.
Yeah.
But yes, when our decision was not a decision of moving into an investment property, we were looking for a place to live and to carry on our everyday life and,
Exactly.
and work and have a new place to live, really.
And that's the point. Everybody needs to customise what you want to do, how you want to live here with where you are. So
Exactly.
that's the point. There was a big duality between saying this region is great for that, this region is great for that. But, you need to choose which one of those you want to sit in.
Yes. So we were excluding a lot of areas because on the map looked quite far from what we believed was the core of everything, and discovered once we moved here that our choice was broader. We had many options to choose from, and some of the areas we were not looking at ended up being potentially the most suitable and the best option in terms of price, location, size of apartment, social dynamics,
Everything like
that.
Yeah. Of course, the other one is style of property as well. And going from London, you realise the style of property here is very, very different. There are a lot of quite tall apartment blocks, and by tall I mean 5 or 6 stories high, that don't have a lift. So that might be one key factor comes into it. Do you want to walk up 5 flights of stairs every time you want to go home? Maybe, maybe not. And you could also then extend that to say, obviously, I'm not so familiar, I guess, being from the UK, of living in apartment blocks of this style. It's either traditionally been the very big, tall apartment blocks of 20 stories, or it's been a house maybe converted into 1 or 2. So, there are a lot of things to consider. There is outside space. Does it have a veranda? What does it look out on? Many properties have commerce underneath. That's not unusual, which is quite strange because you never think of the fact that your whole road, probably nearly every property might have a shop in the bottom of it. What does that shop do? Is it a restaurant? Is it, there's many things to consider. So that whole style of property was foreign, literally, to us. We were something. We hadn't expected that. So we were probably excluding things, not really understanding why we were excluding them or why we weren't excluding them, because we didn't have the template to look at. We weren't saying, that's what one of those looks like. This is what one of those looks like. I know what we're talking about here.
Yes.
So that whole thing, and terminology as well of how people were describing it, that was quite important to get used to, so we could translate them between, I can visualise that now. I know what somebody's saying.
Yep. Also, one more thing that we encountered is that returning on our inquiry via search engine from the UK, many options was to buy a property which was being built, so buying off plan. That came with supposedly no issues attached to it, but the reality is that could be a very successful adventure, but could also encounter few challenges in the way.
Yeah, definitely had some challenges, very different challenges as well. You know, sort of just time scales that you need to move, where you need to be, how you finance it and that kind of thing. You know, all those are different to how if you just walk up and buy somewhere, whereas you know you might be making payments in stages when you might not have anywhere to live. So there's quite a lot of considerations around that. It's not as easy as you think. It's very easy to find because you know you get somebody who shows you some paperwork and what you see is what you get, but not.
But the challenge is when do you get it?
Yeah,
because you might have a completion date on your planning or completion date from the developer.
Yeah.
But bureaucracy is or could be potentially quite tricky, so you might encounter some delays related to permits that never arrive, or the work might suddenly stop, and then if you commit to move, we know where to stay, like we did. You might be faced by renting for a very long time to wait for this project to be completed. Yeah. Nevertheless, we will expand on this topic on a video that we will upload later, so do subscribe. More to come. And I might
paperwork.
Say paperwork. We might say that there was a considerable amount of paperwork or legal requirement that we had to have in place in order to go ahead and buy a property in Lisbon, therefore in Portugal, that we were not aware of. So we were faced with the hardcore bureaucracy experience without speaking the language. A very formative experience, but somehow it's something that we didn't consider at the time of planning to buy here, and we then discover at a later stage. So it's something that we will also talk about in a separate video because the topic is quite vast. But I will consider that is buying a property is a quite straightforward process, but the background work is quite considerable in that term, so in terms of legal requirement and documentation. So I would, if I was you, if you're thinking about doing the same that we done, to prepare well in advance, or at least inquire, investigate about this point before deciding to move and then make potential choices in terms of property.
Well, I hope you found those tips useful. I mean, I think that's our top tips to say what you should be looking for and where we can help you out.
Yes. So remember, we are Project Lisboeta, so subscribe to our channel, put a like to this video if you liked it, and there will be more video for us to come. We will explain also in a later stage what is our business in Lisbon at the moment, and how we can also help you to find the property of your dream, people say, or a suitable property for you and yourself, your family, and yes,
your lifestyle.
Your new lifestyle in Lisbon. It's very sunny in Lisbon, as you can see from the window on my side. So I suppose that's about it from us this time. So as I say, do like us, subscribe to the channel, and this is Project Lisboeta.
See you soon.
Yes, this is Fabrizio.
And this is Ian.
Thank you. Bye.